Mamta ji, please switch off your audio. Go mute. Get live on Facebook.
Good afternoon, everybody. Wish you all a very happy World Milk Day. Thank you all for joining this afternoon for the webinar on mainstreaming fortified milk in the government safety net programs. And today, milk traditionally, if you know, is known to provide, complete health. And it's traditionally known to, as a complete food and provide us good health. And for the children, it is considered to provide good nutrition and improvement in the growth. What we observed in the field is that when the children go to the schools, they go empty stomach, and where the midday meals are provided, they wait for the midday meals to come in, and they have this 4-5 hours of time where they are studying empty stomach, and they are not able to focus on their studies. Also, if we take examples of schools in Delhi, when we visited on some field visit in schools, and I asked the children, they, few of them, like 2 or 3 of them, still said that, they were coming empty stomach to the school. But with the benefit with the schools in Delhi is that, you have a break at 9:30, and they are able to grab and eat something at 9:30. But then, this issue of providing a glass of milk in the morning benefits the child if it is given, before the midday meal. And with that, on this World Milk Day, we take a pledge for the glass of milk for all. And we've brought together the stakeholders from government, research, institutions, as well as academicians to share their knowledge and enlighten us with their experiences on this World Milk Day. So to begin with, I will invite Dr. Rajan Sankar. Dr. Rajan Sankar is a physician and has specialized in internal medicine. He was the head of Thyroid Research Center and Department of Endocrinology in the Defense Research Development Organization, and retired from the Army Medical Corps in the rank of a colonel after 24 years of service. He has been actively involved with iodine deficiency disorders elimination activities in India and in South Asia region. He has published over 100 scientific publications in national and international journals. Dr. Sankar has worked with Micronutrient Initiative and with UNICEF. He was till recently the regional representative in South Asia for the Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition Aid, and is now Program Director for Nutrition at Tata Trust. I invite Dr. Rajan Sankar to set up the context for this World Milk Day. Over to Dr. Rajan Sankar.
Thank you, Vivek. Good afternoon, everyone. It is my proud privilege to welcome you to the webinar, Mainstreaming Fortified Milk in Government Safety Net Programs. I welcome you on behalf of the India Nutrition Initiative, an initiative of Tata Trust. Today is World Milk Day. We're all here to join the global celebration. World Milk Day was started by United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, the FAO, in 2001. And since then, every year, the 1st of June is celebrated at World Milk Day. This day is to recognize the contribution of dairy sector to economic development, livelihood, and nutrition. On this day, the world conveys its deep sense of appreciation and salute millions of farmers. This day has great significance for India for several reasons. Dairy is an important subsector of Indian agriculture. Dairying has emerged as an important source of income and employment in rural areas. Dairying accounts for nearly 17% of value output from agriculture and allied activities. Milk contributes more to the national economy than any other farm commodity. At the risk of being repetitive, I would like to state again that in terms of value output, milk is now the single largest agricultural commodity in India. The sector provides employment to 75 million women and 15 million men. The success of cooperative movement in bringing about the success of Indian dairy sector is globally celebrated. The cooperative model has made India the largest producer of milk in the world. It is only fitting and appropriate that we all join hands to recognize and thank all those involved with this sector on this World Milk Day. Milk is generally considered a complete food. Mr. Vivek Arora referred to it, and many of the experts who will be speaking after me will surely explain that in great detail. Topic of today's webinar is how to mainstream fortified milk in India's food aid programs, in particular school feeding program and the ICDS services. Why do we believe this is a good idea? I should put before you few broad ideas, and I'm sure speakers after me will give you the scientific basis in greater detail. Child malnutrition, in particular undernutrition, poses a vital challenge to India. Micronutrient deficiencies too are major public health problems in the country. Milk, and particularly fortified milk, will fit very well as a complementary strategy to address both child undernutrition and vitamin and mineral deficiency, in particular vitamin A and vitamin D deficiencies in general population. Nutrition is key to unlocking every child's true potential. Well-nourished children are better equipped to fend off diseases, they do better in school, and they grow up to become more productive members of society. The Global Nutrition Report, GNR 2020, that was recently released from India, shows that India has made progress. Stunting among children under the age of 5 has dropped. Nearly all Indian states have achieved declines, proving that progress is possible in every part of the country. But the fact remains that nearly 4 of every 10 young children growing up in India today are not getting enough of the right kind of nutrition to help their body and mind grow to their full potential. And in states such as Bihar, Jharkhand, and Uttar Pradesh, the decline and stunting have been much slower than the national average, indicating the issue is particularly entrenched. That leaves nearly 38 million children in India who are not to be treated just as statistics in a report. They're India's future, and every single one of them deserves a chance to live a healthy and productive life. Improving nutrition in India is key to India's continued economic prosperity. It is also the right thing to do from the standpoint of equity. India has widespread vitamin and mineral deficiency, also called micronutrient deficiencies. Vitamin D deficiency in particular seem to be widespread and seem to be present everywhere we look. Professor Major General Marva, who will be speaking after me, will delve into the topic. Why do we propose fortified milk as a part of the solution for these? Milk consumption in childhood has long been assumed to be beneficial for growth. This is what led to what is called the milk hypothesis. Children are ideally exclusively breastfed during the first 6 months of life. After the age of 6 months, consumption of non-human milk may stimulate growth in the following years. This association may be due to nutritious content of milk. Apart from high levels of energy, proteins, and micronutrients and macronutrients, milk contains calcium and the insulin-like growth factor that are of major relevance for children's development and growth. One of the first studies on milk consumption and growth was conducted as early as 1928 by Boyd Orr. He estimated an increase of 20% in height and weight of Scottish children aged 5 to 14 years who consumed milk in addition to their normal diet for 7 months in comparison to children who did not. More recent evidence comes from a number of randomized controlled trials in Kenya and Vietnam, and cross-sectional studies from Cambodia, Uganda, and Bangladesh. Results in general point towards a positive effect of milk consumption on child growth. Using demographic and health survey data between 1990 and 2017, researchers from Harvard University have shown that milk consumption is associated with a reduced probability of being underweight and stunted. Will providing milk in school meal programs help at all? This is a question that some pose because of our focus on the first 1,000 days. We know that the first 1,000 days between a woman's pregnancy and a child's second birthday sets the foundation for all the days that follow. The 1,000 days has been identified as the most crucial window of opportunity for intervention. Therefore, the focus has been on interventions in the first 1,000 days. No doubt, we need to focus on that. However, there is evidence from Young Lives International Cohort Study that was conducted in India, Ethiopia, Peru, and Vietnam, and few other long-term studies that have reported catch-up growth in childhood. This makes our case strong for inclusion of milk in school and Anganwadis. Overall, the available evidence indicates that increasing dairy consumption among children and women of childbearing age should become a part of nutrition strategies in all low-income countries, as access to milk and dairy products in these countries is low. This brings us to the topic of our discussion today: how to mainstream fortified milk and safety net program. Children 3 to 6 years attend Anganwadi daily for preschool education, and I think they will benefit enormously, and they should also be included in this. Milk fortification began in the first half of this century. Vitamin D fortification of milk in the United Kingdom is reported to have begun in 1923 and in the United States in 1939. The marked decline in the prevalence of rickets in the United States has been partially attributed to vitamin D fortification of milk. Several countries have established mandatory fortification, and vitamin D fortification of milk has become an industry norm in most of the Western countries. Milk fortification is not a new idea to India. Between 1989 and 92, the government of India supported it. Reimbursement of the cost of milk vitamin premix was given to all the dairy cooperatives across the country. All state federations adopted fortification. Unfortunately, in the absence of a legal framework over the years, many dairy cooperatives stopped fortification. In the year 2010-11, Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition, GAIN, started supporting Rajasthan State Dairy Federation. It was the start of a new era in milk fortification in India. Since 2016, Tata Trust through TINI has been in the forefront to support milk fortification. In the last 4 years, Tata Trust have collaborated with NDDB. 26 states and union territories have been brought into fortification fold. Daily, 174 lakh liters of milk is fortified. This is 46% of the universe of fortifiable milk. This means, going by per capita consumption, nearly 116 million people are accessing and consuming fortified milk in India daily. This is indeed a small number in a country with 1.3 billion population, but certainly is a significant achievement in the right direction. India's per capita income has risen 2/3 in the past 10 years to 92,565 rupees, adjusting for inflation. But unlike in other countries where a higher disposable income would mean an increased meat consumption, India has seen a growth in dairy intake as disposable income grows. The growth in dairy products is set to far outstrip growth in meat consumption in India, cementing dairy status as the primary source of animal protein. Dairy is a marker of a family's financial status. You can tell whether a family is well-to-do or poor, as somebody jokingly said, looking at how milky their chai is. Many poor children don't get enough milk, and midday meal and ICDS are ideal platforms that should be fully used. As I said, there is robust scientific basis to recommend inclusion of milk as a part of the food aid programs. Ministry of Women and Child Development held a meeting on mandatory fortification, and in that meeting recommended inclusion of fortified milk in MDM and ICDS. Many state governments have started pilots. Chhattisgarh, Gujarat, Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh, Haryana, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, and Uttarakhand all have large pilot programs, but it is time to scale it further. India has moved from a state of scarcity to top the list of nations as the largest milk producer. We must strive to ensure that our children have access to milk, and the safety net programs offer an excellent platform for the same. Adding milk to the food aid program is consistent with India's public health nutrition goals. I welcome you all once again and enjoy the webinar. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Sankar, for setting up the context and informing us that, dairy is an important source of income for the farmers. Not only that, but it is the right source for child nutrition. And you've also informed us on the studies that have happened to prove that, it impacts the growth of children. Now we will move on to the next topic, which is milk, good food, health and nutrition. Dr. Anurag Kurpad is a professor of physiology and nutrition at St. John's Medical College, Bangalore. He's a fellow of the Royal College of Physicians, London, the National Academy of Medical Sciences, the International Union of Nutritional Sciences, and Margdarshi Fellow of the Wellcome Trust DBT India Alliance. He is a senior advisor to the Tata Trust. He has published over 440 scientific papers and is the associate editor of the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition and co-editor of the Asia Pacific Journal of Clinical Nutrition. He chairs the Scientific Advisory Group of the Nutrition Division of ICMR and co-chairs the Nutritional Technical Expert Committee of the DBT. He is also a member of several other national committees, including the National Technical Board of Nutrition, NITI Aayog, the Scientific Committee of the FSSAI, and the Scientific Advisory Committee of NABI. I now request Dr. Anurag Kurpad to share his intelligence, his knowledge with us. Over to Dr. Anurag Kurpad.
Yes, thank you, Vivek. And good afternoon to everyone. I'm just trying to share my screen now. I hope you can all see the screen. And I'm going to be talking about the general good attributes of milk with regard to foods that we eat and our health. Yeah. Now, if you look at the composition of milk with reference to the requirement of any number of nutrients, you will find that a glass of milk, about 200 ml, look at the last column here, it can give a fair amount of the requirement of that nutrient in a day, specifically for children. And I've taken the reference here for 1 to 3 year old children. And you'll see that you can get up to 100% of B12, although I'm going to talk a little more about B12. But in general, for a variety of very important nutrients, milk is a very important source in the diet if a glass of milk is drunk. Now, this is a slide that I have taken from a publication we made in 2014, but I've updated it at the right side here. You can see, if you can see my pointer, that I've looked at the production of different foods in India right up to 2018, 2019. And you will see that the one food that among all these important foods like cereal, milk, eggs, pulses, and vegetables, the important one that really has been rising and growing in a way that really would meet the requirements for a country of where there are malnourished children is milk. A lot of the other nutritious foods are also growing, for example, eggs. Pulses are hardly growing, but in general, the high quality food that really is there and gives a lot of hope for the ability to feed people is milk. The only unfortunate graph on the top here is that of sugarcane, which is also growing as fast. But really, among the nutritious foods, it is milk, and there is a lot of hope there. Now, this really is a map of India where you can look at, after all that good news I've given you about how milk production is increasing so much, the per capita milk availability of late is almost 400 ml per day. And a lot of people drink milk. And you will see on the left-hand side on this map that in general, milk consumption varies across the country along a north-south axis. And in general, in the Himalayan regions, the Indus Basin, the whole Western desert and Great Plains, the Gangetic Plain, it seems to be higher. It is higher. And as you come down south towards the peninsular regions, it gets lower. And then as you go up to the eastern parts of the peninsula and subsequently the northeast, it is the lowest there. Now, this is important. I'm talking about per capita milk availability of nearly 400 ml per day. But the fact is that on average, in most of the country, the intake is around 160 to about 200 ml per day, except as I talked to you about the northern parts. So there is a great deal of scope to actually add milk into diets. The question about why the East has less milk intake, one can speculate about that, but some have speculated that it is because perhaps of lactose intolerance. We don't know, but there is a lower amount of milk intake there, and there is scope to improve milk intake and to use it as a vehicle to give more nutrients, as I will discuss as I go along. Now let's take, for example, growth. And milk has got some very high quality protein in it. And there are two specific amino acids I want to tell you about. These are tryptophan which is high. It is in fact even 40% higher than egg and meat. And tryptophan is an important signal to stimulate the molecular pathways for growth, either directly or through other hormones. And of course, we all know about the branch chain amino acids like leucine, which is a very important activator of the same molecular signaling pathways. They're called the mTOR pathways. So clearly, you can increase growth through the amino acids in milk protein. And here's the point. There are many foods that have good quality protein, but they don't give them up as easily as milk does. Milk actually allows absorption of the amino acids very, very well. And if you look at this table here, see the column for milk and go down to the bottom, the mean amino acid digestibility is 94%, which is almost complete. That is all the milk that is drunk. All that protein will be absorbed, will be digested and absorbed. In contrast, look at the next column, which is for pulses, which are also high quality proteins, but they're not as well digested. You could probably only digest 60 to 70% of the protein from pulses. So clearly you need to eat a little more of pulses to match what you get from milk. So milk is the ideal vehicle for delivering protein to the body. There is one problem though, and that is that milk protein, as any protein, by the way, in any food, if you overheat it, you can reduce its quality because the sugars interact with the proteins and create products called Maillard products, which are not useful for the body. And you will see at the right-hand side table that if you heat treat spray-dried milk powder and overheat it, you could actually reduce the protein content. So therefore, as we mainstream milk, I think an important issue is how it is delivered. And of course, it becomes more and more easy to take a highly processed product and feed it. But we should be aware that one could lose some of the benefits of milk. Milk as it is, and when I say milk, I am referring to pasteurized milk. So there is a short burst of heat treatment that causes no problems whatsoever. It is the prolonged heating that is a problem. Now, I just want to go through growth. And we heard about the first 1,000 days. That includes pregnancy. And in India, there has been an estimation of the protein requirements in pregnant women. And earlier, people always thought that the protein requirement for a pregnant woman was that she had to just eat for 2 because she was carrying a baby. But it's not true. You need a bit more than that. And based on what has been measured in Indian pregnant women who gain about 10 kilos during their pregnancy, roughly we think that 200 ml of milk per day is required to meet their protein requirements in the second trimester and 500 ml of milk per day in the third trimester. Now, by the way, when I talk milk, in general, I'm talking about milk that you can drink, but this includes milk that has been fermented and you can take it as curds. Of course, we don't eat cheese, so I'm not really thinking about those milk products, but paneer can be included as one of those things. So when I say 200 ml and 500 ml, it is of milk and milk products. And this is important because when you actually evaluate milk intake in pregnant women in India, you will find that the intake of milk protein in a cohort of women actually correlates with the birth weight. And in a very influential cohort in Holland called the Generation R study, milk intake greater than 3 glasses per day during pregnancy was associated with about 88 gram increase in birth weight. Now, by the way, that may seem small to you, but 88 grams is a very good increase in birth weight. On average, you would expect it to increase about 30 to 40 grams with an intervention. 88 is a great increase as a mean intervention. Now let's go to the next part, and we're still with the 1,000 days, but I really agree that it's not just the first 1,000 days that's important. The next 1,000 days is important, and the 1,000 days after that is as important. So when you come to the 3,000 day, you've got children in schools, in primary schools, and you can see that height is positively associated with protein intake from milk and not meat. in 8-year-old Danish boys. It has been shown in the NHANES survey, and in a very classic study that was done in the highlands of Papua New Guinea, where they eat a lot of taro root, and taro root is almost pure starch, very little protein. Skim milk actually was quite spectacular when it was provided to children from that region. In India, the risk of stunting in children aged 1 to 3 years from the NFHS4, and if you look at the NFHS4, there's some index of intake. You can calculate that the risk of stunting is reduced by 10% when high quality protein foods are used in complementary feeding of those children, along with cereals and pulses. So we're talking about a mixed diet, but you're adding in milk as a high quality food. In fact, you can achieve this food-based reduction of risk with 200 ml of milk per day. And should you want to see this calculations and this publication, it is in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, came out last year. Now, let's move to vitamin A. And I'm not going to talk about vitamin D because Professor Marwa, who's following me, is really going to take this in detail. But I do want to talk about vitamin A because it is one of those things that is required it's got a definite requirement, but you need to take some of it in a preformed way. Retinol, which is vitamin A, that only comes from animal foods. You can make retinol in your body from carotene. So if you look at the intakes of children in India, and this has come from the NSS data, you will see that this is the requirement. It's about 200 micrograms per day. You will see that this is the blue line on the left-hand graph is the total intake, and the black line is the intake that comes from milk retinol. Now, should you fortify milk with approximately 35 micrograms per 100 ml of milk and add that 70 micrograms to the intake, you find a dramatic effect on the intake of preformed retinol from milk. And you see that on the right-hand graph, where the black graph, which is milk retinol, moves substantially to the right. And of course, the green one, which is total retinol, including plant sources, moves even more. What is important here is that this is a fairly safe movement. The upper limit of intake of retinol is 600 micrograms in these children. And you'll see that hardly any, nearly 0% of children will be taking that much if you fortify milk. So I see milk as an important fortification, and it is taken alongside oil fortification, which also provides this intake. Now, vitamin B12. Now, vitamin B12 is a bit of an enigma. There are studies in India that have shown that if people drink milk, even for 14 days, they can improve their vitamin B12 status. This was a study done in Pune. The point is this, that in India, we have assumed usually that the absorption of vitamin B12 is 100%. Now, in a recent study, which is now probably going to be published soon, the bioavailability of B12 is about 50%. Now, that means that our requirement may go up to 2 micrograms per day from the present value of 1. Whatever, the important issue is this, that if you have a mainly vegetarian population, you really have to see milk as an important source of B12, and 200 ml of milk can easily give you 1 microgram of B12, and that is very significant. Of course, again, you may ask, what if I boil the milk? What happens to it? Well, nothing. B12 survives pasteurization quite well. It's again only prolonged boiling that could do harm to the B12. So vitamin A, which is preformed retinol, B12, very important animal source, micronutrients, and milk is the major source in India. And finally, calcium. Calcium, and I've just chosen a few of them for lack of time of these nutrients. Calcium is such an important nutrient, and a glass of milk and meat coming up to half the requirements of calcium for the 1 to 3 year old child, and at a higher amount for older children as well. And there's no doubt that low milk intake is associated with low dietary calcium intake. It's only if you eat very chalky leaves like drumstick leaves, or you eat a lot of millets, that you get a lot of other sources of calcium. But in general, high bioavailability calcium comes from milk. And milk avoiders have shorter, smaller skeletons and a low total body mineral content. So overall, and this is my last slide, milk is a very balanced food. It's a great food. It has macro and micronutrients, and it's particularly nutritious in this vegetarian country. It is a great way to get nutrients into children, whether they're 1 to 3, 3 to 5, 5 to 7, 7 to 9, it doesn't matter. Milk is something that is a universally appreciated thing. The point is we have to increase its access, and we certainly have to think about perhaps fortifying it with some micronutrients, which are spectacularly low in our diets. So this is a good vehicle for that purpose. But while we fortify and we create products, I think the key is to understand that a product requires more processing, and whether that reduces the nutrients is something that needs to be measured and understood. But if I were to be asked for a slogan, it's very simple. A glass or two will do. That is the amount of milk that I think everyone should be having. Thank you. Over to you. You are muted, Vivek. I think no one can hear you.
Thank you, Dr. Anura. I think the importance of milk and it being a big source of B, or the only source of B12 and vitamin A. And then, talking about this denaturation of protein when it's heated, and, traditionally in India, when we boil the milk again and again, I think the insight of, not doing that and denaturing the protein was very good. And you talked about this 1,000 plus 1,000 plus 1,000, and I think this is the new thing that has come in, and people were only talking about 1,000, but you've now talked about the 3 phases of 1,000 days, and the importance of, the milk in gaining weight during pregnancy. And I think it is very important that, we start attacking the malnutrition in children right from the stage of pregnancy. So the child, when it's born, it's healthy and there is no issue of malnutrition. I think that's a good approach, and we should also look at beyond children. We should look at providing milk in pregnant and lactating women, to pregnant and lactating women also. I think Andhra will share the experience. They are already providing milk to pregnant and lactating women. So Andhra will share that experience with us. I think now we will go on to Dr. Marwa, and who will tell us about the importance of vitamin D. Dr. Marwa is a research scientist and has previously served as former additional director, senior consultant, and head of department, endocrinology and thyroid research center, Institute of Nuclear Medicine and Allied Sciences, DRDO. He is currently a member of Scientific Panel on Nutrition and Fortification and Scientific Panel on Fortification of Processed Food. He is also a member of the ICMR Task Force on Vitamin D and Thyroid. He is the president of Society of Endocrine Health of Elderly, Adolescents, and Children. He has over 125 national and international peer-reviewed journals and is responsible for coordinating and carrying out institutional research projects. Over to Dr. Marwa. You need to unmute yourself, Dr. Marwa. Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. You muted yourself again. Dr. Marwa, you need, yeah, now it is okay.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Vivek, and thank you, Dr. Shankar. And thank you, Dr. Kurpat, for giving us the importance of consuming milk, especially for children. And now I am going to share my slides. So I have been given the task of discussing fortification of foods with vitamin A and D in India. And before we proceed, you should know what food fortification means. It's a process of deliberately increasing the content of essential micronutrients in food so as to improve the nutritional quality of food and provide public health benefit with minimal risk to health. The different types of fortification are: first one, the mass fortification, is to fortify foods that are widely consumed by general population. It is usually mandatory and the best option when majority of the population has deficiency of micronutrients. As far as target fortification, this means that you fortify foods targeted at specific population subgroups, that is like young children, elderly or pregnant women, and it is usually mandatory or voluntary. The third one is the market-driven fortification, which allows food manufacturers to voluntarily fortify foods available in the marketplace. It's always voluntary, but governed by regulations of the government. Well, we all know, as been discussed, that micronutrient malnutrition in India is a serious public health issue affecting all sections of the society. It is more frequent in poor people, and iron, iodine, vitamin A and D, zinc, folic acid, vitamin D are common micronutrient deficiencies. And the best way to prevent is to ensure consumption of balanced diet that is adequate in every nutrient. This does not apply for vitamin D. So when do we say that a micronutrient deficiency is a public health issue? As far as A is concerned, mild vitamin A deficiency, when the prevalence of night blindness in children 2 to 6 years old is more than 1%. It is called mild vitamin A deficiency. If it is more than 5%, then it is severe vitamin D deficiency. Similarly, vitamin D deficiency, if the night blindness is in more than 5% of pregnant women, is a public health issue. But recently, what they say is if the serum retinol concentration is less than 0.7 micromole per liter or less than 20 nanograms per deciliter in 10% or more children between 2 to 6 years, it is vitamin A deficiency. As far as vitamin D deficiency is concerned, we call it as mild endemic vitamin D deficiency when the deficiency is between 10 to 20% of population. If the deficiency is between 20 to 30% of the population is moderate, and more than 30% is severe. Well, why do we have this vitamin A deficiency? You see, the vitamin A in the form, which is in the form of retinol, which is readily used by the body, is only provided by the animal foods such as liver, eggs, and dairy products. And since most Indians are basically vegetarians, they don't get retinol during these consumption of these animal foods. So they get their vitamin D through fruits, vegetables in the form of beta carotenoids, which very little gets converted to retinol that is being used by the body. The prevalence of vitamin D deficiency. Why do we want to fortify? Because since 2002 to 2004, there were several articles and publications which have shown high prevalence of vitamin A deficiency. And recently, CNNS survey again showed that the prevalence of vitamin D, subclinical vitamin D deficiency, also exists in more than 10% in all states. And in Delhi, especially in children, it is between 16 to 22%. It is similar in boys and girls, higher among school children from poor households than rich backgrounds. As far as the sources of vitamin D are concerned, again, it's only liver and fatty fishes which provide you with vitamin D, and none of the Indians consume either liver or these fatty acids. So we do not get any vitamin D from our foods. What is the prevalence or status of vitamin D deficiency in our country? There are several publications that we have made now, but I'm going to go through only one of the major publication, landmark publication, which was published in 2005, where we evaluated 5,000 children, and we noticed these are healthy children. We noticed clinical evidence of deficiency in almost about 11%, with 7.5% having bow legs and 3.3% having knock knee. More than 84 to 92% of children had low vitamin D levels. So what are the adverse effects if you have vitamin A deficiency? First of all, the normal range of retinol is 1 to 3 micromoles per liter. And it is considered to be deficient when the retinol level is less than 0.7 micromoles or less than 20 nanograms per deciliter. Now, the impact of this chronic deficiency would lead to night blindness, conjunctival corneal cirrhosis or dryness, Bitot spots, corneal ulcer, keratomalacia, and losing eyesight. What is the role of vitamin D in our health? Well, the major role is to maintain blood calcium levels in the normal range, which is vital for normal functioning of nervous system, bone growth, and achieving peak bone density. However, it is also considered to be a potent immune system modulator and prevents development of autoimmune disorders and respiratory tract infections. It inhibits uncontrolled proliferation and stimulates differentiation of cells by preventing common cancers. It also plays a role in insulin secretion in times of need and also increases insulin sensitivity. Now here you can very clearly say if you have vitamin D levels more than 30 nanograms, it stimulates the macrophage to produce a substance called cathelicidin, which is anti-infective, antibacterial or antiviral, and takes care of these bacterial or the viral activities. It also then stimulates, activates B lymphocytes to produce immunoglobulins, which take care of the antigens entering your body or foreign material entering your body. It also has been known to activate T lymphocytes, which controls cytokine regulation. That means it decreases the inflammatory cytokines, which are there as a result of these viral infections. It has other impact on different other organs like pancreas. It controls blood sugar, kidney, it maintains blood pressure, parathyroid, etc. And this slide itself will tell you that if you have more vitamin D in your blood, it decreases your health problem. It decreases common cancer like breast cancer, renal cancer, colon cancer, pancreatic cancer, decreases prevalence of osteoporosis, fractures, heart attacks, hypertension, influenza, frequency of influenza, virus influenza, and low birth weight, etc. And what is its impact on children and adolescents that we are talking today? As has been mentioned earlier by Dr. Anura, that it hampers with your growth velocity, it causes rickets, causes short stature, produces low bone mass, and of course, bow legs, knock knee, and also causes frequent respiratory viral tract, viral infections. So what is the normal levels in children? Less than 12 nanograms is considered as deficiency, 12 to 20 is insufficiency. That means we need to have more than 20 nanograms in children to be sufficient in vitamin D. As far as adults are concerned, less than 20 is deficiency, 20 to 30 is insufficiency. That means we need to maintain our serum vitamin D levels above 30 nanograms per ml in our body. Now, the countrywide studies across all age groups have shown high prevalence of vitamin A and D deficiency in India, and it is a major public health issue that needs urgent attention. And what are the strategies that we need to eliminate these micronutrient deficiencies? You have supplementation, you have food fortification, you have dietary diversification, improving dietary intake. Several of our studies, supplementation studies, have shown that it provides rapid improvement in micronutrient status of individuals and targeted population groups. But the problem with supplementation is that the compliance cannot be there for too long. So lack of compliance is a problem here. Whereas food fortification, it is less immediate. It brings vitamin D levels to normal after about 3 months, but it is much wider, has much wider and much more sustained effects. So we did this study to evaluate the impact of vitamin D fortified milk supplementation on vitamin D status in children. We had a huge number of children, of 713 children placed in 3 categories, group A, B, and C. All the 3 groups are given plain milk for 3 months, followed by group A continuing with the plain milk of 200 ml for 12 weeks. Group B then was given 200 ml of fortified milk with 600 IU vitamin D, and group C 200 ml of milk fortified with 1000 vitamin D. This is the fortified milk that we provided and which was produced by Gopalaji Dairy. And what you see is in control group, there was no rise. In fact, there was a mild decrease. And group B, the rise was from 11.4 to 22.9 nanograms. And in group C, which got 1000, the rise was from 11.9 to 27.6. And those who had low vitamin D levels had significantly higher rise. So the percentage increase in serum vitamin D levels following fortification is significantly higher in subjects with very low vitamin D levels. And here you can see, as the level increases, the increase decreases. And after this completion of study, group B, which got 600 IU per day, 70% achieved more than 20. And in group C, 82.1% achieved more than 20 nanograms. We did not have any case of hypercalcemia or hypocalciuria, and no other adverse outcomes were observed. And we concluded that supplementing milk fortified with vitamin D to children is an effective and safe method of addressing this major public health issue of vitamin D deficiency in children. So now the government has acknowledged fortification as a key strategy to address micronutrient deficiency in India, both at state and national levels. And FSSAI has released a set of standards for fortification of various food items like milk, oil, salt, rice, and wheat, etc. And this is the Gazette, which was published in August 2018, and where the FSSAI has permitted adding 900 to 1500 international units per liter of milk and 200 to 300 international units of vitamin D, that is ergocalciferol, per liter. And as far as oil is concerned, it has permitted 20 to 30 IU of vitamin A per gram of oil, that is retinol acetate, or 3.6 to 5.4 IU per gram of oil, that is ergocalciferol. Now, why did we choose to fortify only milk and oil with vitamin A and D? It is because they both are widely consumed processed foods which can deliver low doses of vitamin A and D to large number of people. Socially, it is acceptable. It requires minimal changes in food habits, does not cost much, and the delivery system is in place and is sustainable. So once this oil and milk have been fortified with A and D, with the amount that I mentioned, we tried to do a pilot study, which was kind of sponsored by TINI, and we did a randomized double-blind placebo-controlled trial in healthy school children to see the adequacy and efficacy of this amount of fortification. So we had two groups, control group and intervention group, prepubertal children, healthy prepubertal children who are vitamin D deficient. The control group had 116 subjects. The intervention group had 119 subjects. They were provided with 200 ml of unfortified milk, and intervention group was provided with 200 ml of milk fortified with 240 IU of A and D. And this milk was fortified by Delhi Mother Dairy. And the baseline levels in the control group was 11.9 to start with. And at the end of 3 months of supplementation, in the month of October, November, and December, the vitamin D levels went down to 6.7. That means there was a downfall of 5.2 nanograms per ml. That means there was no formation of vitamin D during these 3 months. In fact, whatever was there got metabolized and was left with only 6.7. Whereas in the intervention group, you see we had baseline level of 11.4, which went down to 10.8. So the decrease was only 0.6%. So it is almost kind of maintained whatever was the levels. So the study suggested that in winter months, or when there is high level of pollution, there is no formation of vitamin D or very little formation of vitamin D. And the amount that we have added, or which an individual takes through fortification of milk and oil, which is about 240 to 250 international units, does not suffice to keep the blood levels within normal limits. And this we concluded that supplementation of milk fortified with 240 IU of vitamin D2 per day is not adequate to achieve vitamin D sufficiency, though it does reduce the decline in serum vitamin D levels during winter in prepubertal Indian children with vitamin D deficiency. In this study, even at the baseline, we did not find any vitamin A deficiency, and nor there was any change after fortification. Fortified milk was provided to these children. So there was no evidence of vitamin A deficiency in these prepubertal healthy children from upper socioeconomic strata. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Marwa. Thank you for giving us an insight on the importance of vitamin A and D, vitamin A for night blindness and D for bone health, plus you for all the health problems. I think the slide showed, whatever health problems they can be addressed. I think it's addressed with the sufficiency of vitamin D. Also, thank you for sharing on the strategies, what strategies can be utilized for supplementation or fortification, and earmarking fortification as a strategy, for addressing the deficiency of these vitamins. Now till now we've understood as to the what is fortification, why it is important, why milk is important in general. Now, in the school feeding programs globally, how is the milk being distributed, or what are the best practices globally? I think we have with us Mamta Gurung Nyami, and she's an independent development strategy consultant currently based in Nepal. At present, she's a program coordinator for Global Child Nutrition Foundation, a Seattle-based nonprofit managing its Asia Pacific portfolio, providing regional advice and leading its school meal learning exchange project in India. Previously, Mamta had served as head of the education support at the UN World Food Programme in Nepal, where she spearheaded its holistic national school meal program. And also she's a program director at Chaya Community Development Corporation in New York, led its various socio-economic development programs and advocacy work. Mamta has over 20 years of experience in international and community development and has engaged with government on school feeding in more than 30 countries. So I think we have a rich experience from Mamta to be shared with us. She specializes in policy advocacy and programs. Mamta has a strong background in strategy, leadership, and project management, with focus on social protection, child nutrition, food security, education, gender, and civic engagement. I think, Mamta, you have a rich experience to share the global practices with us. Over to you, Mamta.
Thank you, Vivek. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, and I finally got my situation sorted out here, so I'd be able to share the screen, I believe. Thank you, Vivek, for the introduction. Congratulations to Tini and Tata Trust for hosting this very timely webinar, and happy World Milk Day to all. All right, let me share. Can you see my screen? Hello?
You need to do a slideshow.
Okay, bear with me. Did it work now? Did it work? Because I had to switch computers, so it's a little new to me.
That's
Nikita,
better.
maybe you can you see my screen?
Absolutely, this is perfect.
Oh,
This is
perfect.
perfect.
Perfect. So thank you for inviting the Global Child Nutrition Foundation to participate. We're honored to be joining such an esteemed panel of speakers today. And primarily, as Vivek mentioned, we've been delegated to talk more about the milk component within school feeding programs. I'm just, oh, no, I don't know how to go to the next slide. Sorry. I think, sorry.
Just use the down button,
Oh, did that work?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So essentially, I'm going to walk us through in terms of what I'm going to be covering. I'll talk a little about the Global Child Nutrition Foundation, because I figured in this, in this context, we're relatively new, so not many may know about us. Then I'll dive into the school meals global perspective, largely drawing on data from the 2019 Global Survey of School Meals Programs that we conducted globally. And then obviously there's going to be a significant look at milk and school meals programs. That's the core of this particular webinar that we are gathered here for. I'm also going to share a couple of country examples and then finally conclude with some concluding observations. So without further ado, the Global Child Nutrition Foundation, we are a US-based nonprofit, and essentially we are a global network of governments, of businesses, civil organizations that are working together to support national governments and locally sourced and nutrition, and emphasize on the nutritious school meal programs. Now, how do we do that? Some of the core components we look at is 1A, we organize this convening of leaders in school meals all over the world annually, which we call the Global Child Nutrition Forum, and that's hosted in different countries. Last year it was in Cambodia. The 2020 forum, as you can well imagine, we are finding ways to, alternate ways to bring that together. So please stay tuned. We also do a lot of data collection through our global survey, which I'm going to present some of today. We also believe a lot in peer-to-peer learning, which we implement through our learning exchanges, whether it's in country, between countries, regional, etc. And that's one of the ways that we have been deeply engaged with Tata Trust, is because we have an active support in India. We also believe that, you know, when we're talking about school meals, is such a huge scaled program that it would be amiss not to engage businesses responsibly and the private sectors when we are talking about that program. And finally, we also honor individuals who've contributed to end child hunger worldwide. And we do have a annual Lifetime Achievement Award, which is named after our founder. So you might ask, why school meals? Usually when I'm presenting in a room, I kind of do a pop quiz saying, show of hands, how many might have, you know, consumed some sort of school feeding and school meals. And the number of hands that go up is quite a lot. I can't do that here, but what I can say is that school meals programs are in some way or shape present in almost every country. It is the largest social safety net programs, and you know, some of that was also brought out in the earlier presentation. The last figure that we have, this is a study done by World Food Program, is 368 million children receive daily meals on a daily basis. So that's 1 out of 5 child. Our survey, we're going to update some of that and have the reports released by early next year. So evidence shows, I'm not going to delve too much into it, but there is a lot of evidence to indicate enrollment, educational goals, increase in attendance, and naturally linking it to the nutrition, where we are looking at improving concentration and learning. So now I'm going to go a little more into the survey. The map that you're looking at, is from the survey that we conducted, as I mentioned earlier, in 2019. We did a lot of data collection. So essentially, our goal was to reach and work with the list of 193 countries as per the UN United Nations listing. 6 we decided not to approach because of political crises and natural disasters and so on. That was, you know, that was happening during the data collection period. So we had this humongous task of trying to collect data from 187 countries. Now of this, 115 countries, so those are the ones that you see in green, responded. Sorry, 115 countries, we received some kind of a response. Of those, 84, the ones that you see in green, and you'll see it's across the spectrum, right? Whether it's northern or the southern hemisphere, east, west. So you see across that there were a number of countries that did respond to say they have a school feeding program, and that's 84 that we're looking at. 14 countries responded, but they said they do not have a large scale school feeding program. And when I say large scale, we essentially mean something that's done in partnership with the government. We also know there's a lot of school meals programs that are much more charity and small scale. So we were very deliberate about that. 17 countries in purple responded, but they declined to participate for this round with the indication that they would for the next round. So what I'm going to though present and dive a little deeper is data from 31 countries. That's the first phase. We're still cleaning out and doing the full analysis. So you will not see India here, though India, we were able to get a lot of the data from MHRD, the Ministry of Human Resource and Development's MD, the midday meals program. It will be included in the overall studies. And as you can imagine, a lot of the numbers will start to look different because India does operate the largest school feeding program in the world, feeding over 100 million children. Whenever we say those numbers in a global platform, it always gets a resounding it's 100 million children, over 100 million children on a daily basis. So of the 31 countries, as you can see, 32 million children. And here I should also emphasize the data we're looking at is the primary and secondary age. We are not in this particular set, including the preschool. In India, for example, the Anganwadi programs that does cover the preschool. You'll also see the next one, the next chart that you see, which is the average coverage. It does vary quite drastically, as you can see across the board, in the countries ranging from below 5% and going up to 100%. So there's quite a variation, even in terms of the large scale school feeding programs that's conducted. Next, I kind of want to dive a little into the objectives of the school meal programs. School meals program historically started in the mid-19th century. Just in the current form, it is in an institutional format. And this is the post-war as a safety net program. It still continues to be one of the largest safety net program. And you'll see from the responses we've received as well, 80% have indicated safety net as an objective. Overwhelmingly, 100% indicate educational goals at the, as their objective. 90%, which has in the past few decades, we're seeing increase of that, though traditionally it was more of a safety net and an educational sort of objective. So that's been very, very encouraging. And in the nutritional, we're now also beginning to see countries that are very deliberate about including school meals as a means to mitigate obesity. So that's 12%. And another very promising area that we are seeing that is to meet agricultural goals. That's 40% of the countries responded. So that's been encouraging as well. I'm going to now go into the next, can you see the next set of graphs, which talks about the prevalence of school nutrition related nutrition in the school meals program? I hope so, because my screen is acting a little wonky.
Yes, we can see that.
Okay,
Yes,
perfect, perfect. So as I mentioned, 90% of the respondents indicated that nutrition is a core objective. And how are some of the ways that countries are looking at it? So it goes across the spectrum from using fortified foods in their food basket to a small percentage also reporting on some use of micronutrient supplements. Recently, we also are now beginning to see some countries respond. It's not common, about 7% of the 31 responded saying they use some sort of biofortified foods. In this particular set that I showed you, we're particularly looking at Madagascar, Malawi, and Mozambique. Nutritionists are now increasingly getting involved in designing school meals programs. So again, all of these has been very, very promising. So I'm going to now switch into looking at broadly, we wanted to get a sense of what are the food items that's served in school meal programs. And you'll see it has a lot of core components if you look at the different food groups, primarily using the core, grains and cereals is one, legumes is other. But I'm going to draw your attention to the second last row where we ask about dairy. About 28% responded dairy. Now, in this particular survey, we did not ask for a disaggregated data of, when we talk about dairy, to disaggregate it by what kind of dairy it is. But I think to a certain extent, it's safe to assume that it's milk. And I'll tell you why with the next slide. So we also asked for what are the modalities of food delivery across programs. The most common way was in-school meals. And what I mean by that is food, hot meals that is served in school, cooked either on premise or offsite. In India, there's a lot of centralized kitchen modality that's there, that's cooked offsite and then delivered to school. Take-home rations where the ration is provided to the child or to the household rather, and most of the time that modality of delivery is done on a regular interval, either bi-weekly or monthly or what have you. So the reason why I kind of wanted to point to dairy is if you look at in-school snack, that's the third category where many of the countries responded, saying that that's an approach of the delivery. The next set you'll see, if you look at the bottom, where it indicates dairy products, so 60% of the delivery for dairy is through in-school snack. And towards the end of my presentation, I'll show you an example of some of the countries that we've gotten data from where they specifically indicate either a school milk or in program. In others, they don't really indicate a school milk program, but you can know from the components of what they are providing to the children that milk is a core ingredient there. So now I'm going to switch a little to looking at milk in schools and observations from some key global studies, primarily the Food and Agriculture Organization, and as already been pointed out, has been pivotal in really pushing for and advocating for not just the World Milk Day, but there's actually also a World School Milk Day, which is in September. So in 1998, FAO conducted a school milk survey. This was followed by another survey in 2013. And as you can see, there's a gap between when the surveys were conducted. And in 2020, IDF, that's the International Dairies Federation, did another survey and a study which contributes to the observations I'm going to share. But essentially what I also wanted to point out was that that there is an increasing demand and a need for more studies of this nature, which specifically looks at the milk component, which is another promising factor. So what do we observe from here? School milk programs are common in many countries of the world. Collectively, we are informed that 160 million children currently receive and benefit from school milks. And the benefits of school milks, the milk period, I'm not even going to dive too much because I know we heard experts talk about it already, but there are plentiful. So the map that I'm showing you is from the IDF survey, where essentially they put together a standardized questionnaire and collected it from, very similar to the global survey of school meals. You'll see the survey of school milk also. It's across the board where you see school milk program in many parts of the world. So collectively, this data is from 68 countries and also collected in partnership with Tetra Level, who's a big player when it comes to milk, the EU statistics, as well as public websites. So next, I'm going to share with you some country examples. This is taken from the GCNF survey. The first one you'll see on your screens is from Kingdom of Thailand, which I must add has one of the most comprehensive school health and nutrition program. And this is an example of where they have two programs. They call it a school lunch program, but they also have another which is called a national school milk program. So as I was saying, we are also beginning to see where many countries have milk as a designated program. The second example that I want to share with you from the region is the People's Republic of Bangladesh. And they also have milk in their basket, but it's not listed as a school milk program. So something that was a learning for us also is to look at, just because it doesn't mention milk in the program, that it doesn't mean it's not provided. And the delivery for theirs is through the school snack program, where they provided with high energy biscuits. So in conclusion, what do we know? School meal and school milks share a lot of common traits. Some form of school feeding in almost all countries of the world, as we just saw. School milk is also a very common nutrition sensitive intervention in many countries. Globally, estimated 368 million children benefit from school meals, whereas 160 million children benefit from school milk. So in conclusion, there is an opportunity to explore convergence where school feeding is happening, to look at how dairy products and milk specifically can be tagged into that. Why? As has already been shared, what you learn as a child is creating a healthy lifelong habit, and consumption of milk is not something that only stops, in 1,000 days or beyond the 1,000 days. It's a life cycle approach, and it does impact the positive effects of nutritional status as well as the education in children. And I just want to, my final thought to conclude is, as we all know, we're experiencing a pandemic like no other any of us in our living history has witnessed. And with school closures, about 1.5 million children are affected, including in India, where there has been a national school closure, as well as in Nepal, where I am based. And we've seen already that so many children do depend on school meals and school milk for their nutrition needs. So this is a very timely opportunity, and I am looking forward to continue these conversations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mamta. Thank you. And it was a very well concluded presentation. And thank you for informing us that about 160 million children are benefiting from the school milk program. And thank you for sharing the humongous survey that you are conducting and the results, some results from that survey. I think it is still continuing. So sharing some results from the survey. It was nice to note that, the objectives, and apart from education and nutrition, but agriculture and, safety net, definitely, yes. But agriculture, definitely, if you look at milk, agriculture is an objective. And I think it will be touched upon by MD from WARCA, that how agriculture is important here and in the milk program and school milk program. And also, thank you for sharing that, it is responsible for managing the obesity. This is the double burden we are talking about now. So managing obesity also becomes very important, and milk playing a very good role. And as you rightly said, that when you start early from the childhood, it becomes your habit. And it's better, for the nutrition to start early and make that habit of drinking. I think now we will move on from the global best practices to the Indian best practices. I think we have with us Mr. Minesh Shah, who is the Executive Director at NDDB. And Mr. Minesh Shah has multi-dimensional experience in the dairy sector for more than 33 years. He has been representing NDDB as a nominee board member in various milk unions of Gujarat. He was also part of the overseas joint venture of NDDB Kiriya Milk Industries of Lanka Limited, Sri Lanka. He has also made a presentation on dairy policy in India in the World Dairy Summit in 2015 at at Lithuania, and that was organized by the International Dairy Federation. He's also on the board of several institutions such as the Indian Dairy Machinery Company Limited, NDDB Dairy Services, Vidya Dairy, etc. So over to Mr. Minesh, who is the Executive Director at NDDB, to share with us how we can, mainstream this in the government safety net program. Mr. Minesh is part of the gift milk scheme that is already benefiting more than 50,000 children in India. So over to Mr. Minesh. Thank you.
Yeah, good afternoon, Vivek, and all the panelists and other participants who have joined this webinar from different parts of country. And I wish all of you a very happy 20th World Milk Day. It's my pleasure to join with you in this important webinar. I hope you all are taking care of yourself and your families during this difficult time. I'm now sharing my slides. Just give me a minute. Yeah. So I think first I would like to emphasize milk as an important component of healthy diet. Over the time immemorial, milk has continued to be an important component of healthy diet for males and females, as well as for young or old. Our ancient scriptures also mention dairying as integral part of our life. Milk is described often as near complete food in nature. And it has high density of nutritious components in balanced proportions. Dairy products are major source of animal protein and energy and vitamins and micronutrients in the Indian diet. 50% of Indians are vegetarian and do not have other animal source of protein except milk. Let me now introduce you to the dairying, in India. I think I have covered. It helps for disease control and immunity. Various diseases are mentioned, and all this is explained by my earlier panelist. If we see the dairying in India, it's more about livelihood. Nutrition is of course there, but it's also about the livelihood. India, as you all know, dairying India is an occupation of small and marginal farmers. In India, dairy production system is a result of the efforts of individuals that constitute masses rather than mass production. While these small farmers, they own 45% of the total operational land in the country, they own about 75% of the female bovines. So dairying in India, therefore, represent a more equitable distribution of productive assets, income, and wealth than the agriculture. Over the years, if we see, India has become the single largest agriculture commodity in terms of value of commodity produced. So value of milk output for 16-17 was Indian rupees 6144 billion, which was higher than combined value of paddy, wheat, and sugarcane. Stability in income from milk is far stronger if you compare it to the income deduced from agriculture activities. While the agriculture growth has been fluctuating over the years, the growth in milk has remained steady, over these years. We have observed that economic reliance of this sector increases during the period of environmental adversities as drought or crop failure, etc., and even during the recent example of COVID-19. About 63 million rural households are engaged in dairying, and low capital investment, short operating cycle, steady returns, all this makes dairying a preferred livelihood activity among the small and marginal farmers. Now, if we see the dairy cooperatives and its importance in the Indian context, cooperatives, they are the most logical institutional structure to ensure collective bargaining power for millions and smallholder milk farmers for their survival in the competitive market. For a smallholder dairy farmer in the remote village, it would be difficult to transport and sell their milk due to very less volumes. The cooperative institutions, they ensure pooling, processing, and marketing of their milk, and they almost pay back 75 to 85% of the consumer rupee earned back to the producers, which is highest in agriculture commodity across the globe. We have total about 22 state level federations or apex bodies and about 238 milk unions working in our country. They have about 2 lakh dairy cooperative societies with 0.68 crore biggest network in the rural areas. NDDB on its part implemented Operation Flood, Perspective Plan, and the recently National Dairy Plan 1, which were the major interventions of NDDB, which took India to become largest milk producer in the world. If we see in the last 5 decades, the national milk production has grown by 8-fold. That is, the 22 million tons of milk production in 1970 has now reached to 187 million tons in 2018-19. So this has caused a consistent and upward shift in the per capita availability of milk, which was 112 grams per day in 1970s, has now gone up to 394 grams per day in 2018 and 19. So this has contributed towards the nutritional self-reliance through the domestic milk production. Let us now understand the COVID-19 and its impact on the dairy cooperatives. In last few weeks, they were very difficult for the dairy cooperatives. The COVID-19 pandemic and ensuing lockdown led to a peculiar situation where the milk procurement increased substantially for most of the cooperatives because the private operators closed down their businesses. On the other hand, if you see the sale of liquid milk or the milk products, it decreased on account of HoReCa segment, which was not catering to the consumers. The additional surplus milk thus procured by the cooperatives was need to be converted into longer shelf life commodities such as skim milk powder or whole milk powder or butter and ghee. And this led a liquidity problem for these cooperatives. They also faced a problem in management of raw material and finished good inventory. The cooperative dairy sector continued to deliver milk and milk products, however, to the consumer across the country. And given the unprecedented times, this has once again reinforced that the reliability of cooperatives owned by millions of milk producers of the country and our milk producers, dairy cooperative society personnel, the staff and officers who are working with the dairy cooperatives at any level, say milk federation or milk unions or milk producer companies, they have worked tirelessly, often at considerable risk, to ensure that essential nutrition in form of milk and milk products reaches daily to our consumers across the country. It was perhaps the only economic lifeline in times of COVID-19 in the rural areas. Having said that, let us now focus on the nutrition-specific interventions of NDDB. We all know that children are the happiness of our family, and they are very vital to our nation's present and the future. We need to recognize them for not only who are they today, but also for the future roles in creating families, being efficient manpower for industry, and also contributing to the general well-being of our country. Few years ago, NDDB was grappling with this question. Are there ways to improve policies and practices designed to make our children healthier? That paved a way and genesis for NDDB Foundation for Nutrition. It was promoted by NDDB and its subsidiaries Indian Immunologicals, IDMC and Mother Dairy, along with GCMMF or Amul, which are it was a response to our ensure that common priorities are shared and resources are aligned to children's need and deployed to optimize their health. As part of the Gift Milk initiative under NFF, favor is provided to school children in primary and upper primary classes for flavored tone milk is provided per child, and so far 85 lakh of such units of gift milk have been distributed to about 55,000 school children across 7 states in our country. So doing any intervention is fine, but you need to evaluate how far you are able to achieve the intended goals. So we did an impact assessment in the Latehar district of Jharkhand. The study was done by the Ranchi Institute of Medical Science, Ranchi. And you'll be happy to note that our interventions has led to 7% decrease in the number of stunted children and 10% increase in the school attendance after the introduction of Gift Milk initiative. NDDB has also formulated a product Shishu Sanjeevani, which is fortified supplementary meal. It's a form of laddu and which can cater to the needs of the Anganwadi children. I think why fortification is addressed by the earlier panelist, but I just want to touch upon that NDDB initiated a large-scale fortification in India through milk in collaboration with World Bank and Tata Trust. And the idea was to align and supply the demand for fortified milk in the market. And we also ensured that the dairy cooperatives are equipped for the production of fortified milk variants, and the milk variants are reaching to the consumers at affordable prices. The significant progress has been made in terms of open market availability of fortified milk across the country. In the last 2 years, we are able to provide access of fortified milk to people in more than 90% of the geographical area. Around 30 cooperative milk brands are fortified with different variants, tone, double tone scheme, or standardized milk, and reaching consumers in 23 states of India. Apart from this, now a lot of private players have also started fortifying milk, and we can say that we have attained industry readiness for supporting government safety net programs. If we see the milk fortification, this gives the idea of the milk fortification project, which was implemented with the World Bank and Tata Trust. And you can see the area where this programs has reached, barring few states. Now all these states, they have availability of fortified milk with vitamin A and vitamin D. These are various milk brands of the cooperatives, those who are fortifying milk with vitamin A and vitamin D. On the cost involved, for fortification of the milk, it's not much. If we see the incremental cost of milk fortification is about 2 to 3 paisa per liter of milk. And by incurring this minimal cost, the burden of widely prevalent problem due to the deficiency of vitamin A and D can be reduced. We have 3 large-scale food security programs that can come under the social safety net programs, like public distribution systems. We have midday meal scheme program, and we have integrated child development services. 6 years or pregnant and aid programs can ensure better health and nutrition for all our citizens. Currently, both midday meal program and ICDS, they have mandated the use of fortified wheat flour, oil, and double fortified salt nationally. But milk is yet to be considered. I think this can be achieved with the support of Ministry of Women and Child Development, Ministry of Human Resource Development, and Ministry of Consumer Affairs. Inclusion of milk in safety milk programs is not only important from the nutrition aspect, but also for supporting the livelihood of farmers. The NFN initiatives by NDDB, for the milk fortification project and for providing the milk to the school under the school milk program, it has proved that even though milk is perishable, with the infrastructure and vast network of dairy cooperatives across the country, including milk in the government safety net programs is feasible now. If we see the role of central and state government, for these initiatives, more universal approach and provision of more essential commodities under the purview of PDS and such safety net schemes in view of COVID-19 is more important, because it is likely that due to this crisis, we will have more households which are poorer, and we can increase the malnutrition in our country. So it is a need for the state governments to take up this responsibility of adding more essential commodities to the food basket and thereby secure the health and well-being of nation. NDDB has already initiated advocacy with the state governments to include milk as part of PDS. This will not only support the cooperatives, but will also ensure the nutrition for all population of our country. The center, with recommendation from the NITI Aayog, can consider announcing a policy in this regard, maybe a central sponsored scheme with fund sharing system between the center and state government to initiate school milk program as part of the midday meal on a maybe countrywide basis is the need of the hour. Maybe the NFN's Jharkhand model of school milk program can throw more light in this aspect. So this is all from my side. I only wish to say that NDDB will continue to support or promote institutional structures, arrangements for reducing the malnutrition in our country and ensuring that our children are happy and healthy tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Minesh. Thank you for sharing those insights. I think the information that 75 to 85% of the consumers' money or rupee earned from consumers goes back to the farmer is a very vital information, and it improves the nutrition at the ground level. So in the farmer's household, it improves the nutrition. Also, you informed about how dairy sector, with the challenges during the COVID times, was able to provide and maintain the supply chain for milk and milk products, and it's still continuing to do so. Also, thank you for sharing the impact, impact assessment for the school milk program. So, it works. So you said that, how it has improved the nutrition and how it has affected the stunting of the children. So you have a first-hand experience that in Indian context, if we provide a school milk program or if you run a school milk program, it works. And regarding the price increase on the fortified milk, I think it is thank you to all the cooperatives for not increasing even a single paisa on account of fortification and continuing to provide at the same prices. So with that, I think we can go to the next topic. We have some experiences from Andhra, and Andhra is providing milk not only to the children, but also to pregnant and lactating women. We have with us Srimati K. Damayanti. She's an IS officer. She's a principal secretary, Andhra Pradesh government, and she will share with us her experiences. She has over 25 years of experience, and she had previously served as additional secretary, Department of Agriculture and Animal Husbandry. So milk is not new to her. She is currently the Principal Secretary, Department of Women, Child, Disabled and Senior Citizens, Government of Andhra, working towards reduction of malnutrition, especially among women and children, by implementing the flagship programs of ICDS. So I think this is a first-hand report that we'll get from the government. Over to you, Damayanti ma'am.
Good afternoon, Shri Vivek Arora ji, for giving me this opportunity. Good afternoon to all the panelists and all the participants in the workshop. I just would like a small introductory correction. I worked as a Principal Secretary, Additional Charge of Agriculture and Animal Husbandry Department, Government of Andhra Pradesh. I also worked in Government of India as Executive Director of the Food Corporation of India. So now for the last 1 year, I have been in the Department of Women Development and Child Welfare. Earlier also I worked in the nutrition programs. I'm happy to inform to all the participants and all the panelists that Government of Andhra Pradesh has been supplying milk to all the pregnant women, lactating mothers, keeping in view the need for providing nutrition, milk, energy, calcium and other easy digestibility of the milk. This has been done from 2014 onwards. Initially, we started in 104 projects in 2014 under a program called Amma Amrut Hastam. That is a hot cooked one full meal program. NIN has given a menu which says complete nutrition, what is the current dietary intake of the people in the poorer households, and what is the additional requirement needed, keeping in view the requirements needed, including the micronutrients. A menu was prepared in consultation with the National Institute for Nutrition. Based on that, one full meal program was started, under which egg and milk are provided to the pregnant women. In 2017, this program is scaled up to all the projects in the state. That is, currently all the 257 projects provide milk and eggs to all the pregnant women and lactating mothers in the project. In addition to that, we also provide milk to the malnourished children category, and all the children in the designated SC and ST nations in the plain areas and in the tribal areas, that is agency areas and the supply mandals, where tribal population is either 100% or substantial. All the people, irrespective of their category, are provided milk. So, and in addition to that, children below 3 years are given the weaning food, ready to eat weaning food, in which 10% of the every 100 grams provided has skimmed milk powder, that is solid, not fat. So thus and all these categories, wherever we are giving milk or the milk powder, it is all fortified with vitamin A and D. So now I will go through, this is the broadly this thing. Coming to the beneficiaries' response, beneficiaries value milk and eggs very highly. They think that it is a valued food, expensive food provided, and children do take this flavored food. And what we do ensure to avoid avoid wastage, damage, and also shelf life increase, we provide ultra heat treated Tetra Paks, which has a shelf life of 45 days minimum. So with this initial introduction, I'll make a presentation. I'm sharing the experience of mainstreaming fortified milk in government safety programs, that is under ICDS program in Andhra Pradesh. We have currently under ICDS 30,20,000 beneficiaries, 2.8 lakh pregnant women, 3.7 lakh lactating mothers. The entire 6.5 lakh pregnant women lactating category are provided milk. And we have 15 lakhs, 6 months to 36 children. They are provided weaning food called Balamrutam, and 10% of the weaning food given is milk powder. Then under the 36 to 72 months, we are having 8.7 lakh beneficiaries. Under this, only a portion of it are covered. Out of the 8.7 lakhs, we cover 3 lakh plus population. As out of the 30.2 lakh population beneficiaries covered under ICDS, we are covering around 27 lakhs. The details will be submitted in the subsequent slides. Milk to the pregnant women and lactating women. As I said, all the pregnant women lactating mothers under ICDS are provided 200 ml of milk every day, and we provide 6 days in a week. So 25 days in a month we provide. Thus, we provide 5 liters of milk per month per beneficiary. As I already said, this is ultra heat treated Tetra Pak. All children in tribal areas 6 to 36 months, 36 to 17 months, both the categories are given 200 ml of milk, and 6 to 36 months children are given all the 30 days. So 6 liters of milk is given. That is given as a take-home ration. 36 months to 72 months children are given midday meals. So the milk is given, as one of the speakers was mentioning, children come to the school or the preschool empty with the empty stomach. So we provide milk in the beginning of the class, morning itself. That is by 9 o'clock we provide milk. Then coming to the SC/ST habitations with 75% of the population in plain areas, all children in those Anganwadi centers are currently given milk of 100 ml. The difference between the tribal areas and the SC/ST habitation in the plain areas is, we found the malnutrition and all health indicators wise, tribals are disadvantaged. Their indicators are very low. And as you all know, tribal population malnutrition incidence burden is also very high. So this was reviewed by the Honorable CM, present CM, and Honorable CM directed in the tribal areas, all children shall be given 200 ml quantity, so that even if they eat less at home, they still will need the substantial portion of their nutrition requirements. And so far as the malnourished children are concerned, both under the 6 to 36 months and 3 to 6 years children are given 100 ml and 200 ml. Sorry, it is both there is an error, we will correct it. Both categories are given only 100 ml milk every day. And our monthly requirement of milk is 55.94 lakh liters. And the entire quantity we procure from AP Dairy Development Cooperative Federation. And this entire milk is vitamin A and D fortified. Balamrutam, as I said, we provide weaning food to the 6 to 36 months. And these children are given the fortified weaning food called Balamrutam. It is every 100 grams of the weaning food, which is calculated requirement per day, is 20 grams of sugar, contains 20 grams of sugar, 10 grams of oil, 10 grams of skimmed milk powder, 55 grams of roasted wheat, 5 grams of milk, Bengal gram. And it covers, it provides 11 grams of protein, 414 kilocalories, 367 milligrams of calcium, 9.1 milligram of iron, 202.5 vitamin A, then vitamin B12 0.55, vitamin C 15.5 mg, folic acid 22.1, and niacin 6.3 mg. To ensure protein calcium supplementation as recommended by NIN, skimmed milk powder, as I already said, is added 10% of the skimmed milk powder, 10 grams of milk powder is added in every 100 grams. That is 90 grams of other plus 10 grams of this. Preschool children in 77 tribal mandals are additionally provided 50 grams of Balamrutam every day as snacks. That is, they make paisam or laddu or something. Milk supplementation, why do we do it? What is the coverage? To show it in the slide, what I have said, milk supplementation is included in 2014, started in 2014. Currently, all the 257 projects provide milk through the 55,607 Anganwadi centers. to ensure protein and calcium supplementation during gestational period. All pregnant women lactating mothers are provided. Supplies to the Anganwadi centers are either in 1 liter pack, 500 ml pack, or 200 ml pack of ultra heat treated tetra packets. And this milk is fortified with vitamin A and D. Delivery is by the Anganwadi Dairy Development Federation, delivers it to the Anganwadi centers, and we generate it is through the barcoding system. We record the supplies. Average of beneficiaries, as I already submitted to the participants, 6.5 lakh pregnant lactating mothers covered currently under the ICDS are provided 200 ml milk every day, including during the lockdown period. This is highly appreciated. Recently, 1 year completion programs are celebrated by the state government, by the Shri Y.S. Jagannath Reddy Garu. In the meeting also, beneficiaries said, during the lockdown, we found it difficult to get the products, but ICDS through THR has supplied this to our doorstep. So this is highly valued. 3 to 6 years children are provided in the tribal areas 100%. That is 3.1 lakh children in the tribal areas are covered. Then 2.4 lakh children outside the tribal areas, which covering SC habitations, SAM, that is severely underweight, severely malnourished, moderately malnourished children in the general category are also provided. Thus, it comes to 5.58 lakh children in the 3 to 6 years age group. Children are provided milk. 3 to 36 months children in the 77 tribal mandals, as I said, are provided 200 ml of milk as take-home ration, and all the 15 lakh children are provided Balamrutam, which has 10% SNF milk powder. Response of the beneficiaries. It is, as I submitted earlier, beneficiaries value it as a expensive product, and they value it. Children's acceptability, pregnant women lactating mothers' acceptability of milk is also high, and they find it is helping them to gain, pregnant women especially state that it is helping them to have the gestational weight gain. And this is provided in the center. If we give it as a take-home ration, sometimes the possibility of other members consuming is there. Whereas this is under the spot feeding program other than the lockdown period, and it is really the gestational weight gain is monitored and is found. So it is effective intervention. And growth of the children is also visible in the malnourished children. Then 200 ml packet is found to be very convenient. Why I am saying 200 ml packet? We are getting 1 liter pack, 500 ml pack, and 200 ml pack. 200 ml pack means every mother is given 1 pack. She takes and she knows it is unadulterated, and she enjoys eating it. Drinking it. And children also, it is very easy for distribution. But 1000 ml packs and 500 ml packs, sometimes there is scope for pilferage, and sometimes glasses may not be clean. So there are issues. Balamrutam is widely accepted by mothers and feeding children, especially educated 7th, 8th, 9th by educated mothers say this food is like Cerelac, because poor people value Cerelac, and they say this is better than, this is like Cerelac. In fact, this food is tasting better. So it is valued very highly. What are the challenges? To get the required number of 200 ml packs is a big challenge, because demand from the beneficiaries, give our packet to ourselves. Don't open it and give it to us. So 200 ml packets are available, they would be most convenient. Then sometimes instead of Tetra Pak, sometimes they give other packets. So that damage is sometimes noticed. Then timely supply in the tribal areas, remote areas is a challenge. Then supplies sometimes are inadequate. Then the food gaps come, and the beneficiaries say we have not got it. And so tracking and ensuring that the milk supplies by the Dairy Development Federation are as per the indents given is one challenge which we are facing. It is also sometimes because we delay the payments. So delays in payments also are an issue because finance departments have not cleared the bills sometimes. So the challenges are there. Then in Balamrutam, though the quality is very good, we provide 2.5 kgs pack. But the poorer households, sometimes they don't store it in a tin, tight tin, and then becomes into a lump and solidifies. So that is an issue. Storage and hygiene at home is also one issue. So thank you. This is all I would like to share. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. If any questions are there, I know. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Thank you for sharing this exceptional program with us. I think, benefiting 30 lakh people, especially the children and pregnant lactating women with this program, it's the report from the ground is exceptional. This program, I think, should become a role model, and we should see that how we can replicate this in other states. Also, the insight that you gave that a 200 ml pack is more valued and is more important than the 500 ml or a 1 liter pack. I think this is a valuable insight because there has always been questions on, the economy and the 200 ml pack being more expensive and, moving on to say 1 liter pack or 500 ml pack just because of the economic reasons. But your reasons for choosing a 200 ml pack because it is not adulterated, they have that confidence. I think it supersedes the other economic reasons. So I think it's a very good insight from your end. And
I have one clarification to make. I have one clarification, Mr. Vivekji.
Yeah, please.
30.2 lakhs, we are providing milk or milk powder, included weaning powder, to 27 lakhs. So there is still a gap of around 3 lakhs. Thank you.
Right, but you will catch up very soon, I believe, with those 3 lakh.
I think so. We are planning.
Right. And also the insight on the Phenopack. I think you were referring to the Phenopack, which is
yeah, Phenopack,
other type
exactly.
of pack.
Phenopack's
Right.
breakage and bulging is very high when compared to the Tetra packs.
So I think thank you very much for this insight on Phenopacks, and that helps us to choose the right packaging. And the report from your end, I think it's a first-hand report, and it will add to valuable inputs to the recommendations that you make in future.
Thank you.
So now moving on from the first-hand report from on the ground to what is the industry preparedness, and I think some of the challenges that ma'am mentioned about, I think those challenges also can be posed to the industry, and we have with us Mr. Kamaldeep Singh Sangha, who is an IAS officer, and he has over 27 years of experience working in the cooperative sector for the upliftment of the farmers of Punjab. He's worked in various capacities. He has played a key role in strengthening the organized rural credit system as functioning as a managing director of the Punjab State Cooperative Bank. He has coordinated the implementation of various government policies as Deputy Commissioner of Amritsar and Fatehgarh Sahib district. He has headed the food grain procurement and marketing activities of Punjab government while discharging the duties of Secretary Punjab State Agriculture Marketing Board. He is currently serving as the CEO of one of the biggest dairy cooperative federations of India, the Milk Fed Punjab, popularly known by the brand Merca. I now hand over to Sri Kamaldeep Singh Sangha for his insights. Please unmute, sir, please unmute. You still muted, sir. You need to press it only once. That's okay, sir.
Is it all right? Good afternoon, Mr. Arora, and thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. and a very good afternoon to all the experts and participants. I've just heard all the experts, and I've also seen that almost 90% of the slides which I had in the presentation have to be repeated. So there is no point in doing that. So I'll rather focus on those points and those issues which have been thrown up. There is absolutely no doubt that milk is a highly nutritious food, and experts have also dwelled on the good quality protein which is available in milk, and the better bioavailability, better digestibility, and better anabolic potential that protein which you have in milk gives anybody, from children to the very elderly population. The casein and whey again go a long way in improving musculature. So it's a complete food of sorts. And to talk about the need for fortification of milk, I think there is no better time than the times of COVID epidemic. Everybody in the country is trying to understand how to improve immunity, how to improve the general health, and how to make the body capable of fighting all the infections. I think never in the history has Indian population been exposed to so much about nutrition and health as they have been in the last 2.5 months. So I think it's the most opportune moment for us also to talk about fortification of milk, vitamin D, vitamin A. I was just reading and rather listening to some video of an expert who had compiled statistics as to wherever the virus has struck people in a deadly manner, there has been a uniform pattern that they were very deficient in vitamin D, especially a combination of vitamin D and vitamin A deficiency made people highly susceptible to virus. So that kind of reiterates the fact that milk can really improve the capability and the capacity of the body to boost up its immunity and fight all infections. It has been already pointed out that in India there's a huge number of the highest number in the world of children who are undernourished, who are facing problems of nutrition deficiency. And I think there is a consensus of sorts. I've heard all the experts that if you provide milk or any product made of milk, it'll go a long way in improving the general nutrition and help us in preventing wasting, help us in generally boosting the health of kids, improving their mental capability, because it is a well-known fact that when nutrition is not there, undernourished children can never reach the capacity which they originally are born with to have their mental faculties sharpened. Now to see this falls in the realm of public policy, Government of India and the various state governments, whether to go in for pushing milk products in the midday meal scheme for boosting the nutrition levels of school children. This is a call of the government, and I think some of the states are doing exceedingly well. I've just heard, ma'am, and Andhra Pradesh has always had a very good track record of taking care of their poorer sections of society, their nutritional needs through self-help groups and various government programs. It's been a pleasure to listen to her, and when she was trying to explain how that has been done by the government. So I would rather focus on the fact that in India, if the government decides on this across the board, there won't be any problem of having enough quantity of milk. That is the supply side. The production capability, as far as Indian dairy farmers are concerned, is going to be fully sufficient to meet any demand which is thrown up if the government decides to have this program on their menu. I wouldn't like to repeat it, but just a mention that we are producing almost 21% of the milk in the world. And the capacity and the capability is going to improve over the years. And there has been an estimate that Niti Aayog estimate, I was going through the figures, in 2033-34, the supply will be around 330 million metric tons against a demand of 292 million metric tons. Now, the gap between, or rather the positive gap between supply and demand is definitely partly because of the fact that there are many poorer sections or millions of poor people in India who can't afford to have this quality food on their menu because of the constraints of not being sufficiently economically well off to afford that. Like everybody has mentioned, it's a complete food. And in India also, if we generally have a look at the general nutrition standards, not only the kids, but almost 30-40% of the population requires better diet, better protein. If I talk about the way we are trying to meet that protein demand, I think we are getting around 18 to 20% of the pulses from different countries as import. Now, we can meet the demand of protein locally by supporting our dairy, by having policy intervention, which helps the farmers to expand their operations. That can easily be done if there is support on the demand side. There is going to be no dearth of availability of milk, that is for sure. In Punjab, we are a surplus milk producer state, and a lot of our milk is being exported to different states and abroad also. But the fact remains that the capacity of the farmer and the capacity of the state's agricultural resource to produce more, and that capacity is underutilized. Right now, because of the COVID threat and the lockdown, we are absolutely surplus of milk. In fact, the problem is how to take care of the surplus powder and the surplus white butter that we've accumulated in the last 2.5 months. And it also gives us an insight into what can happen if organized sector is not there, if we don't jack up our capacities and capabilities to have a system of taking care of the milk when there is a flush season. That's exactly what has been done, but to our discomfort, that has been there has been an imbalance in demand because of the contraction in demand. But obviously that contraction has also hit the poorer sections of society very hard. The person who earns his livelihood by working daily probably doesn't have that kind of resources now to afford the kind of food which he wants. So an organized system of creating a stable demand will definitely help the dairy in expanding, help the dairy in becoming more efficient, help the dairy farming in increasing per capita production, also in improving the quality, investing more. So this is a system which has to be very delicately balanced. And I'm trying to hint at the fact that in case the government of India or states across the board decide to give milk to the huge population of young kids who are studying in government schools, that can have a very good catalytic effect in strengthening dairy at all levels. First, at the level of farmers, where they'll be encouraged and they'll be happy to produce more. And with better extension services, better support, the cost of production per capita is going to come down, which will further make it viable. And it's going to be, an impact which will see the states also having to spend less because of better productivity, better handling, and better capacity at the level of organized sector dairies in producing whatever form is required by the government. It could be WMP, it could be SMP, it could be UHT milk. Now in Punjab also, we are producing whatever UHT milk is being churned out, that is being given to army, it's being given to our neighboring states, it's being given to even northeast states. So the only constraint is the creation of demand. So in that sense, from the industry's viewpoint, I think it's going to be a really positive factor for the rural economy, for the dairy sector in general, for for the dairy industry in general, and also in the process it will improve the nutrition levels of school children. It will help in better health, help in better mental capabilities. And when we were talking about the logistics, pouch milk, of course, there is no problem at all in jacking up production as far as pouch milk is concerned. Milk powder, again, there is enough capacity already to meet the demand, and the demand can be added very easily. The capacity can be added or augmented very easily. Tetra Pak, again, I've already mentioned that Phenopack is another thing which comes in handy. So it could be 200 ml, it could be 180 ml, whatever you choose. And as far as we are concerned, we haven't had any difficulty in handling or marketing or transporting the Phenopacks, especially of 200 or 180 ml level. That's a pretty okay packing, and it doesn't spoil or doesn't leak that much. There was an issue of whether the government is able to support the dairy in giving good prices. I think if the government steps in, it will automatically happen. There won't be any exploitation of the dairy farmers. Otherwise, in flush season, because of lack of the organized sector and the lack of the market for whatever product is made at that time, that is what keeps the dairy sector on a very topsy-turvy level and keeps the farmers on tenterhooks whether to go in for augmenting their production, because they are never sure of what kind of behavior the market will have. So I'm trying to talk about the farmer sector, the side of the farmer, because they are usually not well represented when policies are made or formulated. So the point which I'm reiterating again is that this kind of approach, if we have the, that captive demand of all the schools where we try to give milk, that will really help in strengthening the sector. As far as fortification of vitamin D and A is concerned, that is being done across the board. We are in all categories, all the variants of milk which we produce, except the full cream milk, we are fortifying it. It's been well received. And thank you very much for supporting us in this, Mr. Arora. This is the crux of what I wanted to discuss with you. There are a few slides, and I think we are running behind schedule as well. So the fact relating to the kind of contribution which dairy has in the overall agriculture scene in the country, that has already been touched upon. I don't think there is any need for me to repeat it again. But I can assure you that dairy sector is definitely fully equipped to tackle any future demand of milk or milk products which is being envisaged. And there's another issue which I thought would be relevant. Whatever pilot programs have been started in Punjab for school students, there are, I think in different states, there are different variants. There is provision of kheer, for example, provision of other veggies, and that of course is slightly different in every state. But milk, of course, can be a uniform product all over the country, except when you mix it with something to make some sweet dish or something. Let me just touch upon the kind of handling capacity that we have. 28 lakh liters per day we are handling. Powder plants are capable of producing almost 10 lakh liters per day. 100 MT per day is the powder output, but we can always hire more plants like we had to do this time. UHT more than 1 lakh has been being packed. We are coming up with a new plant which will be ready by December. Again, it will be worth handling 2 lakh liters per day. So augmenting our capacity is not going to be a big deal. Any program which the government comes up, within 6 months, we can have the capacity to fully cover that. And one issue which I think could be relevant, that this type of milk, it attracts GST. I think government will have to take a call on that, because if we talk of people's access to milk in those difficult terrains where fresh milk supply is usually limited, I think then GST component has to be waived off, which of course government can take a call on. So I think I've taken the time which has been allotted to me. I would conclude by saying that it's of course extremely desirable. Every expert says midday meal programs should be, at least in India, they should be having a component of milk in that. And I can assure from the side of the dairy industry, as well as from the side of the dairy farmers, that any demand of milk which the government creates can easily be met by them, can easily be handled by the dairy industry, even by the cooperatives or private industry put in. And it will definitely give a flip to the rural economy. It will help in stabilizing the things as far as dairy industry and dairy farming is concerned. It'll be a win-win situation for everybody. So that's about all. And thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to be here in this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kamaldeep sir. We are glad to hear from you and hear the industry perspective regarding provision of fortified milk in government food safety net programs. Talking about policy and advocacy, we have representation from FSSAI with us. So I would request in Ms. Inoshi Sharma, Inoshi ma'am, to please talk about the policy advocacy regulations. A little bit about Inoshi ma'am. Inoshi ma'am is a civil servant officer of the Indian Revenue Service. She has held various assignments pertaining to publicity of tax provisions, international taxation, vigilance, and the appellate tribunal. She has worked as Director, National Health Mission in Haryana. Her current assignment as Director FSSAI involves social behavior change in communication and extending support to scaling up food fortification in the country. No better than Enoshi ma'am to talk about regulation and policy in milk for safety net programs. So without much ado, I hand over to Enoshi ma'am to talk about the policy, advocacy and regulation.
Thank you
Ma'am.
so much, and good evening to everybody. We've had a wonderful discussion today about the importance of milk, especially among children and among lactating mothers or pregnant women or generally everybody, and how milk is a complete food. More than that, milk also acts as a boost to the economic well-being of people who are dependent on, say, milk as a source of income, and how it is so much a part of our Ayurvedic tradition also of having milk. And at FSSAI, as part of the Eat Right initiative, not only do we advocate fortification, but we also talk about how important it is to mindfully eat what we've got. And milk, to that extent, becomes a complete meal which anyone can have at any time, anywhere. With that, I would also like to add that how FFRC, which is the Food Fortification Resource Center in FSSAI, is providing technical support to all the line ministries and various developmental partners with respect to any information regarding fortification. Now, with regards to milk, we already have standards which have been developed, which lay down the basis for which we can have tone, double tone, standardized or skim milk, which is fortified. The cost of fortifying milk is less than 2 paisa per liter, which being soluble in water, it's extremely easy to do. We are already at FSSAI in the process of pushing forward the regulation which will make it mandatory that all milk which is available in the market is fortified. If that should happen, it would be a big boost to the nutritional status and improving the nutritional status of the people of this country. One of the very important things at FSSAI that we are doing in terms of fortification is also ensuring that the premixers, the manufacturers who are providing the premix, are also trained. The training of these people ensures that the premix which is available is also standardized. And also we are doing regular training and also auditing of these premixers. We are also ensuring that the food safety officers of our FSSAI department are also trained, so that whenever they are visiting any of the cooperatives or any of the premixers, they are aware of what are the standards and what are the hygiene and safety practices which are ensured. So what I would like to really point out here is that at FSSAI, we are not only making standards for how the fortification is to be done, we are also pushing the regulation which ensures it's going to become mandatory. We are also ensuring that the premix manufacturers as well as the cooperatives are following standard procedures so that safety and hygiene is ensured. More than that, our biggest challenge is to, on one hand, make sure that the availability of fortified milk is there with people, and on the second hand, we also have to bring about the social behavioral change among people to accept that fortified food is actually good and it is so convenient to ensure the nutritional benefits are available without actually popping medicines. It just becomes a part of the daily meal. So with this, I would like to hand it back to you. Thank you so much.
Request Nikita to come back, please.
No, I'm back. Thank you, Gautam. Actually, some internet issues at my end, I think. And thank you, Enoshi ma'am, for sharing the policy advocacy. I was able to log in on phone and able to hear you a bit. And so now we move on to the other section, which is the question and answer section. We have certain questions, I think, from from the audience. We will take few questions and we'll pose it to the panelists. So I think the first question, which I think I can pose it to Shri Kamaldeep Singh Sangha. The question is, procurement is one of the issues with ICDS. How can we implement provision of milk in ICDS? So this is from the supply point of view, or I think this can be, answered by Damayanti ma'am or Shri Kamaldeep Singh Sangha, that, how we can procure it at ICDS level. Procurement of milk at ICDS level.
May I please
I
request?
said under ICDS in Andhra Pradesh, we are procuring milk through the Dairy Development Cooperative Federation. The reason there were some questions and suggestions from the participants that we may directly supply milk procured from the dairy farmers and then supply to the district. As you may be aware, there are in every village or every district, the production and supply are not equal. So it is a very big challenge to match these things. And logistic management, we tried initially in 2014 when we started the milk supply. We started procuring locally, but there were many issues. It could be there were filth rate, there were complaints of adulteration, there were complaints of irregularities, and also spoiling, milk wastage. So then we tried procuring from the local dairies and supplying the fresh milk packets. Then also milk supply was delayed, then milk will be broken. And then we went for the Tetra Paks. So challenges, fresh milk, nothing like fresh milk supply provision if it is possible. But when we are talking about tribal areas, hardly 1 liter milk would be available in tribal areas. Our requirement in milk tribal areas is 10 lakh liters per month. So, or there are some districts where there is huge deficiency. Currently also in AP, we are importing from Karnataka Milk Federation. So there is deficiency district-wise. For example, milk powder. Telangana Foods is trying for milk and they called for tenders we couldn't get. I think maybe with the lockdown, from what National Dairy Development Federation officer was mentioning, there is now adequate quantities. But the challenges are many. And as you know, in the procurement of the government procurement and supplies, we shall not only be honest and transparent, but also appear equally to be transparent. Otherwise, the benefit of doubt will always be on the, we will face unnecessary CVC inquiries. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
I made myself
Kamaldeep
clear.
Singh Sanghaji, you have to make some point on this. Yeah.
In Punjab also in the last 5 years or so, we've given more than 1200 MT of whole milk powder and 4200 MT of Panjiri to CDPOs. So supplying to the government is hardly any issue. There is a system of negotiating and then giving them whatever is required. And procuring it from the farmers, as I already mentioned, that we are a surplus state as far as milk production is concerned, there's hardly any issue. So any amount we can tackle, any amount we can handle. It'll be, in fact, a very good opportunity for dairy farmers and dairy sector if the government steps in and provides milk to those sections of society who really can't afford to have the quantity which they should be having to stay healthy.
Thank you, sir. So the second question is to Dr. Anura, that is fortified milk good for the preterm child? How to set standards for fortified milk? And what are its testing parameters and where can we get its standard from? So please, sir.
Did you say preterm child?
Yeah, preterm child.
So for the preterm child's requirements are very specialized, and there is no fortified milk like that is available. You get fortifiers of human milk, which are given, which typically are linked to the protein content. There's no doubt that children are born with very low retinol stores. So the best way by which they get their retinol, at least, is through breast milk. So it's very important that these children are given breast milk, but also the breast milk itself contains significant amounts of retinol. And of course, it contains so many other things like lactoferrin and oligosaccharides. Now, the second part of your question was
how to set standards for fortified milk.
Okay, so the way we have gone about setting standards at FSSAI, and I was part of the committee that did that, was that we took the approach that we would meet 1/3 of the requirements of children through the fortification. If we could assume a certain amount of, say, milk intake per child, then we would set a level which met 1/3 of the requirement of any nutrient. So that's the way we set it. There is some amount of tolerance for that on either side because of the technical issues with fortification. But that's how the basis is.
Right. Thank you, sir. And the last question that was there within this was that what are the testing parameters and where can we get its standards from? So basically standards are, yeah.
I think the FSSAI should answer this. Dr. Inoshi perhaps can, because there are FSSAI recognized labs, right, for testing.
Right, NABL accredited FSSAI recognized labs are there, and they do provide testing parameters. Ma'am, can you pitch in here?
Yes, you're absolutely right. So we do have labs. Every state has its lab, and we've got recognized labs also. In fact, we have also got special training done of the lab personnel also of how the testing has to be done properly so that we can determine if the standards in the milk are complying with what we have issued or not. So we do have all those parameters in place.
Thank you, ma'am. The next question is, again, I believe you will be able to answer this question. What is the safety and quality assurance of fortified milk?
So actually, that's a very good question, because for fortified milk, I mean, for any person to first get the plus F recognition itself means that they have followed certain standards and procedures, and the safety is ensured, because every milk that is fortified is also, I mean, it can be tested in the labs. There is a certain premix which is already determined, which has to be mixed in the milk in a certain way. So it's completely safe.
Thank you, ma'am. The question next is to Mr. Minesh at NDDB. Procurement is one of the issues. How can we implement provision of milk in ICDS? So again, a procurement question has been put in. So from NDDB point of view, please throw some light on the.
I clarified the same during my presentation also. I think the large amount of milk is now available. Most of the states, as MD Milkfed also told, they are milk surplus, and procuring milk and supplying for these channels should not be a problem. And milk being perishable, I think we are also thinking of providing skim milk powder or the long shelf life milk products also along with the fresh milk. So I don't see procurement of milk as a problem. Even during the lean season, when we have slightly less procurement as compared to flush, these long shelf life milk products like milk powder and sweetened condensed milk, they can be used for the nutrition and requirement.
Thank you, Minesh. And one next question is to Dr. Marwa. That are there any studies which prove that there are no incidents of hypervitaminosis in any age group due to fortification of milk?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, sir.
Yeah, so generally the hypertoxicity because of vitamin D comes only when the serum levels exceed more than 100 to 150 nanograms per ml. and the maximum upper limit is about 4,000 that has been kept by Institute of Medicine. Though several studies have shown that up to 10,000 international units per day of vitamin D consumption does not cause any toxicity. Toxicity is seen only when vitamin D is given in the form of injectables, or somebody has taken by mistake very heavy doses of vitamin D instead of once a week or once a month. If somebody takes by mistake every day, then one can think of hypertoxicity. Otherwise, through fortification, there are no cases of hypertoxicity.
Thank you, Dr. Marwaha. Now the next question is to Dr. Mamta Gurung. Are you available, Dr. Mamta? I think Dr. Mamta is not available. Yeah, she is back.
No, I'm here. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. So the next question is to you, that are there any studies, how are the school meal programs managed during school holidays globally? Are they discontinued, or is there any way of reaching the meals to their homes?
Mhm. That's a good question. First of all, I must say I'm an aspiring doctor, so maybe that's a sign being addressed as a doctor here. But jokes aside, we do know on an average, most countries responded somewhere between 180 to 200 days of meals that they provide in a calendar year, in a school calendar year. So what that means is primarily meals are provided during school in session. But that being said, a number of countries do have provisions for meals that are provided, like the US is one good example, where they have summer packages, during summer schools, as well as take-home rations that are given to the families. So it's variation across the board. I want to pivot a little and just give an example of what the state of Kerala is doing in India. They were one of the first states to respond to how they were able to provide the ration that was designated for the midday meals to household level. And from what we understand, that's a similar sort of an approach they often also times use during holidays and school closures. So we are trying to pick more of that data. But for now, there isn't a specific one that comes to mind to be able to provide more detail. I hope that responds to the query.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Mamta. And now I would also like to inform that on this World Milk Day, what we've done, we are running two contests. Actually, one is make your own milkshake, MYOB. So we are asking the participants to make innovative milkshakes using fortified milk and post the videos on our handle. And also we are running a selfie contest where the participants can click a pic with the fortified milk and then submit on our handles. So I'm running a small video for that. I'll share my screen and see. So basically this provides, how to participate, and you can go on the handle. This is a small video. So you just make a video, shoot a video up to 60 seconds, share for maximum likes. Based on that, you can win amazing prizes. The selfie contest, similarly, you can take a selfie. You click a selfie. These and then you can win amazing prizes. So Okay, so I think the screen sharing has stopped, I believe.
Yes, sir, that stopped.
Thank you. So now we can move and we can discuss some takeaways from the webinar or not seminar but the webinar. There are some key takeaways I think from this, and we can say that we pledge for a glass of milk for everyone. I think that's the key takeaway from today: a glass of milk for everyone. And then, as Dr. Anura Kurpat said, that a glass or two of milk will do. That kind of a slogan is also a key takeaway from the webinar. And milk is wholesome and nutritious and serves as an excellent vehicle for fortification with essential micronutrients for addressing the deficiencies. School milk feeding program evidence shows that meals increase enrollment, increase attendance rate, and provide students with energy they need to concentrate and learn. So 160 million children globally are benefiting from this. NDDB recommends mandating fortified milk in safety net programs. NDDB is equipped for supplying fortified milk for government safety net programs. And NFN by NDDB proves that this can be done and can be scaled up in view of the COVID-19 situation. Smaller packs, 200 ml rather than 500 ml, and Tetra packs 1 liter are more recommended and easy to use and builds confidence in the consumers. And FSSAI is recommending mandatory fortification of milk and emphasizing on quality assurance and quality control, capacity building of premix suppliers, training programs, etc. So I think that's what we will do is we'll compile all the recommendations. We'll also look at the questions from the viewers. I think we could not cover all, but we will pose it to the panelists offline and we will compile all the answers and we will put it on our media handles. With this, I thank you all panelists on joining us for this webinar. Thank you all once again. We bring this to an end now. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay safe. Take care, everybody.